Hey everybody, this is David Trungale with TraderTours.com, and I wanted to review the story of market legend Richard Dennis, one of the greatest speculators of all time. The guy turned about $1,500 into hundreds of millions, and he did it in a pretty short time period. And it's almost unheard of. And if you look at his story a little bit deeper, you will find, though, that he did get into some trouble later on in his investment career. And like any human being, he is susceptible to his own emotions. He's vulnerable to overtrading and making mistakes, but what are you going to say? I mean, the guy made over $100 million, so I thought, if anything, we could learn something from some of his trading ideas and preferences. So first off, it's important to understand that he was a technical analyst. So he followed trends. He studied price action within the market. He was not a value investor. He didn't care about fundamentals. And I find this to be a pretty consistent pattern with those that were truly great in the world of speculation or investing. Now, Richard actually taught people to trade, and he had a class of students, and he handed out a test that included a series of true and false statements. And I thought I would share some of those on this video because it was very interesting, and you can find most of this online, but I thought it'd be kind of neat to bring this up. So one of the true or false statements he had in that test was the big money in trading is made when one can get long at lows after a big downtrend. So that is false. And if you study his work, similar to Livermore, similar to Nicholas Darvas, these guys actually preferred to buy on breakouts. They were buying an investment as it rose, opposed to trying to buy it near a low. So it's never a good idea to try and catch a falling knife. If you try and pick a market bottom, more often than not, you will be wrong. And you want to trade with the trend and stick with that trend as long as it persists. So we're not concerned with, again, value. We're looking at what the market's actually doing. And it's a very important lesson to learn from Mr. Dennis. Now, another thing he had on the test was if one has $10,000 to risk, one ought to risk $2,500 in every trade. And by his standards, that's true. Now, again, I don't follow his model exactly here. I do something a little bit different, but if you think about that, that's pretty aggressive. But you're going to have to be extremely aggressive if you're going to turn a few thousand into hundreds of millions, obviously. And another thing to note, if you have a stop loss set in, you're really not risking $2,500. So that'll be 25% of your account on the line in one trade. If you have a stop loss set in, it's going to be substantially less, and the likelihood of a stock going to zero is pretty slim. But that was his particular model, and I thought that was pretty interesting to note. And one of the other things he had on that test was others' opinions of the market are good to follow, and that is false. And this may be one of the most important lessons of all. Now, there are some guys out there that are worth listening to. Okay, I'm not trying to say that everyone is full of it, but I would say 90% or more of the investment advisors, the guys on television, you're just not going to make any big money following their advice. And most of the guys that actually have made it, that make a living off of trading, they're the ones that are quietly doing their own independent analysis. And if I look at my own trading career, some of the biggest losses I've incurred were actually the times when I listened to other people. I mean, I had a top fundamental analyst telling me to hold a company. There was a stock I had a few years back, and the fundamental analyst was telling me to hold on to it. It was a good buy. It was a good hold, even though the market started to turn. And I listened, and the loss I took was a lot more substantial than what it would have been if I would have followed my own advice. So, anyways, pretty interesting stuff. That's Richard Dennis for you. I hope you enjoyed it, and please consider checking out my website, TraderTours.com.